Thunder rolled over the jagged peaks of Wyrdenfell as Maelin pressed her foot against the wooden treadle. The old loom creaked beneath her touch, its spindles slick with mist from the open window. As the shuttle zipped between warp and weft, Maelin's mind wandered, until the thread caught, tearing sharply and spilling silvery fibers onto her lap. She stared, heart racing. The threads pulsed with faint blue light, showing fleeting visions. A city in flames, dark shapes moving beneath moonless skies, a great beast roaring at the edge of the world. These were not memories, but warnings, a glimpse of futures unwoven. Maelin, what did you see? Old Tress, her grandmother and the village's eldest weaver, leaned into the cottage, eyes reflecting worry and stormlight. The air smelled of ozone. There's something wrong with the loom, Maelin stammered, unable to look away from the shifting fibers. It's spinning things that haven't happened yet. Outside, the wind howled. Shadows flickered along the far shelf of mountains, where legends said the world's fate was once bound by the Loom of Fate. Maelin swallowed hard. I think it's unraveling. Tress drew a shaky breath. No one has seen a living thread in generations. There are tales of the Weaver's Guild, of the Shadowed Order, but it's real, Maelin insisted. And if these visions are true, something terrible is coming. A clap of thunder shook loose a scroll from the mantle. As Tress bent to grab it, Maelin noticed a streak of inky darkness crawling over the loom's spindle. The thread was not just showing futures, it was being corrupted. You mustn't touch it, Tress urged. The old magic? It's too late, Maelin cried as the darkness reached her fingers, burning cold and sharp. Fear seized her, but with it came a flicker of defiance. She remembered stories of far-off heroes and lost kinsfolk, of hope spun from despair. I have to fix this, Maelin said, voice steady now despite the shaking in her hands. Not alone, Tress said. To mend what's broken, you'll need allies, ones who know the wild places, the ways of sky and storm, and the secrets thieves keep. Maelin nodded, the gravity of her task settling in. She would seek them. The exiled knight known for summoning clouds with a whispered word, a silver-tongued trickster fleeing his own mistakes, and a mage who spoke to roots and rivers. The loom's threads quivered in anticipation. Their first step into the unknown spun into the world's very fabric. And from the farthest peaks, a distant shadow watched, eyes glimmering with cruel intent. The game had begun. Maelin wrapped her bandaged hand and slung a satchel over her shoulder, packing what little she could, spools of moon thread, a flask of rainwater, and Tress's crumbling scroll. Dawn was just a whisper on the horizon, pale and uncertain. Down the winding path from her cottage, Maelin kept glancing back, the blue thatch roof growing smaller with each step, the village hushed as if holding its breath. Wind swept across the slate cliffs as she approached the ancient bridge that crossed into Stormvale. The river below foamed white with spring melt. Some said it once ran with golden light when the loom still sang its song. A low, metallic cough stopped her on the bridge. Perched on the railing was a figure clad in battered armor, sparks crackling around her hawkish face. Rain spat from the dull sky onto the Storm Knight's shoulders. You look lost, the knight said, standing. Or you're running from something worse. Maelin squared her chin. You're not from the guild. Not anymore, the woman replied, pushing a crooked badge into her pocket. Name's Sarah. People say I bring bad weather. What brings a seamstress to the mountain's edge with haunted eyes? Maelin hesitated, choosing her words like threads. Wyrdenfell's loom is faltering. I saw what's coming. If I don't fix it, none of us survive. Sarah raised a brow. Lightning flickered above her palm. Prove it. Maelin opened the satchel and unwrapped her bandaged hand. The spindle's black stain had spread. Energy thrummed beneath her skin, a living thread of dread. Sarah's frown deepened. I lost everything because I wouldn't let the guild own me. If you're telling the truth, you'll need the clouds on your side. There's an inn just past the ridge. There we'll find the next piece of your party. Side by side, the weaver and the exile strode into driving rain. Their journey had barely begun when, from behind a gnarled pine, a wiry boy with fox-bright eyes leapt across their path. He flashed a mocking smile and flicked a knife in a coin-like arc. Looking for heroes? Or just easy marks? Sarah's hand moved to her sword, but Maelin shook her head. We might be looking for you. The boy's grin widened. Call me Finn, and you just saved yourselves a pouch or two. Higher in the crags, storm clouds coiled and rumbled, a warning from the world itself. Maelin took a shaky breath. For the first time since the loom change, she didn't feel alone. She remembered Tress's words. Allies. Secrets. Storms and stories joined. The threads for now held together. Rain softened as the trio ducked beneath a mossy awning of the inn known as the Shivering Pike. Sarah's armor left puddles where she stood, while Finn made quick work of a coin game with the yawning barkeep. Maelin wiped her damp hair from her face and tried to steady her racing thoughts. They could not stay long. The threads in her mind itched with urgency. A fire crackled in the hearth, and in its glow sat a robed figure, hunched and muttering to herself. Green leaves tangled in her hair. Sarah noticed Maelin's gaze. That's your forest mage, or someone pretending hard to be one. Maelin approached the woman, Finn trailing behind with a stolen bread roll. Excuse me, Maelin said gently. The woman's head snapped up, her eyes sharp and eerily bright. Are you called Lyra? Maelin asked, recalling Tress's stories. The mage squinted. Names change in the forest, but yes, once. Speak plain, what brings you to me before the dawn's birdsong? Sarah folded her arms. We seek to mend the Loom of Fate. The dark unravels it. Maelin is touched by the threads, Finn snickered, and a shadowed guild is chasing us. Nice to meet you. Lyra's gaze drifted to Maelin's bandaged hand. I've waited for signs from the roots, they whispered, three bearing danger, one hand stained Stormheart Fox Shadow. That is you. Sit. The shadows have ears. They huddled close as Lyra spoke in a low chant. The loom's heart beats deep in the Hall of Penance. Guards roam its halls, the brambled, ancient monsters bound by broken oaths. You will need magic older than any blade to pass. Finn leaned back. Let me guess. You've got the magic, but there's a catch? Lyra smiled without humor. You must retrieve the Heartseed deep in Rootgrove where daylight never walks. Fetch it and my power is yours. Deny me and even the Storm Knight's lightning is but a spark. Maelin nodded, weight settling on her shoulders. We'll go. But tell us, why help us? Lyra stared into the fire, her voice a whisper. Because the world that birthed me is dying, thread by thread, and I am tired of watching roots rot. A gust rattled the windows. The fate of Wyrdenfell, once distant, now clung to them with every breath. Tomorrow they would enter the dark of Rootgrove, where legends went to sleep and memories awoke hungry. Dawn broke weak across the Rootgrove as Maelin, Sarah, Finn, and Lyra picked their way along the twisted trail. The thick, gnarled trees pressed in, their bark veined with a strange, pale lichen. Shadows tangled with the mists, and the crunch of old pine needles beneath their boots seemed far too loud in the hush. Every few steps Finn checked over his shoulder. You smell that? He whispered. Like iron and earth and something else. Feels like we're being watched. Sarah nodded. The brambled are oath-bound here. Keep to the path. Lyra walked at the front, her staff glowing faintly green. The Heartseed grows where the first light never reached. Trust the roots to guide, but not to protect. As they moved deeper, Maelin's palm burned, the darkness from the corrupted threads pulsing in sync with Rootgrove's heartbeat. Her fear threatened to overwhelm her, until a memory of Tress's gentle voice grounded her. Be braver than you believe, little strand. Unseen shapes stirred in the underbrush. Sarah's gauntlet sparked with contained lightning. Finn's bravado failed. A bead of sweat slid down his cheek as he gripped his dagger tighter. At a clearing thick with thornbush and fog, they stopped. A single glowing fruit pulsed at the center of a mass of roots, the Heartseed. Its light ebbed and flowed like breath. But guarding the Heartseed, half embedded in the earth, stood a brambled. Its body was more bark than flesh, thorns jutting from its twisted limbs, and in its hollow chest pulsed a shard of corrupted thread, the same inky darkness as Maelin's own affliction. The brambled's voice rattled the air. Turn back, trespassers. This seed feeds the last hope of Rootgrove. None pass but those who sacrifice. Finn hissed, I'm not keen on being mulch. Maelin stepped forward, voice trembling but strong. If the loom dies, Rootgrove dies too. Let us save the world. Let me pass. I'll pay your price. The bramble tilted its head, considering. A memory, woven into the roots. Your most cherished moment. Give it up, and you may take the Heartseed. Maelin's mind reeled. She thought of moonlit winters with Tress, weaving under the lamp, safe and certain. To give up the memory would be to lose herself, but the world needed her more than she needed comfort. She reached forward, tears brimming. Take it then, let us mend what's broken. The bramble placed its clawed hand over Maelin's heart. A coldness swept through her, old warmth fading like torchlight. She staggered, but the bramble stepped aside and the roots parted. Lyra gathered the heartseed, voice solemn. Courage is woven in loss. As they left the clearing, Maelin's chest ached with hollowness. Still she walked on, changed but not broken. The fate of the world rested heavier, and a bitter wind warned of the dark guild drawing ever closer behind them. It took 2 days of silent travel to break free from Rootgrove's anxious shadows. Maelin trudged along with the heartseed in her satchel, feeling the empty space left by the memory she'd given up. Sarah and Finn gave her extra glances, not asking what she lost, just staying quietly near. Lyra, with the heartseed cupped in her hand, muttered spells like lullabies as the forest receded behind them. The hills grew steeper as they neared the Hall of Penance, a fortress carved into the cliffs at the world's edge. The guild's banners, black with silver symbols, hung limp from the battlements. Winds snapped at Maelin's hair as she stared up at the looming stone. "That's where they keep the loom," she breathed, "and probably every shadow the guild can muster." Finn tried to lighten the mood. "Good news is, those banners are ugly enough to scare off any sane soul." Sarah cracked a rare smile. "We'll need more than wit to get inside." Lyra pressed the heartseed into Maelin's palm. "Time to awaken old magic. Trust what you are, not only what you've learned." They crept along the fortress's rear wall, past a swollen river and iron-grated culvert. Sarah whispered, "Storm's brewing overhead. I can bring a mist if we move now." Before she finished, footsteps echoed from above. Shadows flickered as cloaked figures peered over the parapet. Guild sentries, their hands bristling with blue arcane fire. Finn hissed, "If they see us!" Maelin pressed the heartseed against the iron grate. She focused hard on the thread singing beneath her skin, the dormant power and the pain. Lyra began to chant, her words blending with the wind. Vines snaked from the heartseed, melting metal and giving off a burst of wild green light. The culvert yawned open, roots tunneling into darkness. Sarah pulled Maelin through first, then Finn and Lyra, just as alarms began clanging along the walls. Inside the cold tunnels, Finn's voice echoed. "Never been chased into a sewer by mages before. Suppose there's a first for everything?" They hurried deeper as shouts and running feet sounded behind. But in the gloom, Maelin's bandaged hand glowed brighter with each step closer to the loom. A sign, perhaps, that she belonged here, that something old and broken recognized her courage. For a moment, just a breath, Maelin felt like the underdog who could yet untangle fate itself. The tunnels beneath the Hall of Penance twisted like the tangled threads of Maelin's own mind. The rush of water and echoes of distant footsteps followed them, a warning that the guild was closing in. Sarah led, her sword drawn and sparking fitfully in the near dark. Finn clung to the shadows, a smirk plastered over his nerves, while Lyra's voice hummed low, coaxing roots to mask their passage. The passage opened into a small vault lit by the faint blue glow of ancient sigils. In the center stood a sealed door, its surface covered in shifting runes. On it pulsed the symbol of the loom, a circle woven with thorns and stars. "We're close," Maelin whispered, feeling her heart thump like a trapped bird. "Lyra, can you open it?" The mage laid a palm on the door. "It needs more than magic. The loom recognizes sacrifice and hope. You have both, Maelin. Place your hand here, and you too." She turned to Sarah and Finn, "For you walk her thread." Finn grimaced but stepped forward, pressing his palm beside Maelin's. "If anything bites back, I'm blaming her." Sarah joined, her hands steady. "We're with you, Maelin, all the way." As their hands touched the door, sigils flashed, memories spinning into the air. Maelin's sacrifice, Sarah's exile and stubborn pride, Finn's longing for forgiveness, and even Lyra's sorrow for the dying woods. The door recognized each pain and responded. The runes unraveled, threads of light racing up Maelin's arm, until her whole body hummed with purpose. The vault door parted with a heavy groan. Beyond lay a grand hall lined with celestial tapestries. At its heart, the Loom of Wyrdenfell, more beautiful and terrifying than the stories, its frame pulsing with fractured color and snarls of creeping shadow. A dozen guild mages stood in a half-circle. Their leader, a tall specter in silver-black robes, smiled coldly. "Welcome, weavers. You've brought us what we need. Pity you won't live to see a new world spun." The shadows on the loom writhed, hungrier than ever, as the stakes sharpened. Maelin swallowed, fear rising. "We're here to mend the world, not hand it over." The leader's eyes gleamed. "Let's see if you have the courage to try." The final struggle for Wyrdenfell, and for destiny itself, had begun. The world inside the Hall of Penance felt different. Time tightened, and every thread in Maelin's body bristled. Guild mages fanned out, their arms a storm of flickering spells. The loom loomed at the chamber's heart, churning with a darkness that crackled and bled into the tapestries. Sarah raised her blade high, thunder rolling from her armor. "Stay behind me," she barked, and lightning jolted down her arm, splitting the nearest mage's shield with a deafening crack. Finn hung back near the wall, sizing up the chaos. "Not exactly a fair fight," he muttered. Then he darted into the melee, slicing a guild satchel with surgeon's speed. "Let's see you cast without your shiny toys." Maelin's hand pulsed. Her pain was a beacon, drawing the corrupted shadows toward her and the heartseed. All around the loom, threads frayed and snapped, reality shuddering as the guild's dark spell crawled deeper. Lyra planted her staff and chanted in an ancient tongue. Roots cracked the hall's smooth stone, grasping at robed feet and breaking the guild's circle. But every mage trapped, two more pressed forward. The silver-robed leader strode through the chaos, his voice slicing ice-cold. "All this for a chance at hope, Weaver? Fate doesn't bend for dreamers." Maelin met his gaze, legs shaking but her spirit set. "No, but it can be rewoven." She thrust the heartseed into the loom's churning shadow. Vines and silver light surged, roots wrestling with ink-black corruption. The loom shuddered, ancient wood groaning as the darkness fought back, tendrils lashing Maelin's mind with visions. Failing, falling, endless loss. Sarah staggered, knocked to her knees by a bolt of force. "Maelin, hurry! I'm trying!" Maelin howled, sweat blanching her brow. Every ounce of courage she'd gathered, and every loss she'd suffered, now channeled through her trembling fingers, weaving hope and pain together, daring the loom to heal. With one defiant roar, Sarah hurled her sword, lightning trailing. Lyra screamed a final spell. Finn threw a cloud of stolen spell dust. Chaos erupted. For one slashing heartbeat, the guild's hold faltered, and Maelin saw, in a flash, the loom's core thread. A path to mending, if she could just endure what came next. The futures hanging in the air, hopeful and doomed, waited for her next move. Howling shadows wrapped around Maelin's arms, pulling at her will as the loom fought her every movement. She gritted her teeth, clutching the heartseed. The clash of spells and steel echoed in her skull, Sarah battling two mages at once, Finn vanishing and reappearing like a phantom to cut bindings and sow chaos, Lyra's voice ringing with ancient anger as roots lashed the guild's strongest shields. The guild leader advanced, hands alight with a nightmare fire. "Let go, child! You don't have what it takes to finish this!" Maelin's breath hitched. She remembered Tressa's words, the memory she could barely feel now. Courage is being afraid, but stepping forward anyway. With a shudder, she pushed harder, pouring everything into the loom. Fear, hope, and the emptiness left by sacrifice. The heartseed glowed in her palm, seeping golden light into corrupted threads. The room shuddered. For an instant, time fractured. Maelin's vision swam with realities. Villages burning, friends lost, Sarah's twisted future as guild pawn, even Finn betrayed and alone in a different life. But then, another future flickered. Green fields, laughter, Lyra with a wild blossom in her hair, Sarah laughing beneath unburdened skies. That tiny hope steadied her hands. Out of nowhere, Finn grabbed the guild leader from behind, knife pressed to the man's throat. "Back off, or your grand future ends now." The leader snarled, thrashing, but the loom wrenched his attention away. The guild's corruption, rooted deep, began to unravel. Sarah, battered but grinning, slammed her fists on the ground, lightning bursting across the loom's tangled face. Lyra drove her staff into the stone. Roots and wind howled, binding up the last few mages. The loom shook violently. Threads of darkness and gold knotted tight. Maelin braced herself, the magic boiling in her blood. If she faltered, the world itself would rip apart, or be forever twisted by the guild's vision. There was only one choice: carry on. With her friends shouting support around her, Maelin flung herself deeper into the loom's storm, eyes shut tight against the agony and the terrifying hope that she, a simple weaver, might just remake fate. Above them all, the very fabric of the world waited, silent and trembling, for what Maelin would choose next. The loom's chamber pulsed with raw possibility, future, past, and present swirling in the spinning threads. Maelin felt torn in every direction, the agony of choice streaking through her. The heartseat in her grip vibrated with warm, ancient magic, fighting the last black knots still choking the loom's core. The guild leader staggered free of Finn's blade, retreating with a snarl, but not yet defeated. "Break the weaver," he screamed to the few mages still conscious. They hurled desperate hexes, shadows snaking across the floor, but Sarah and Finn blocked them shoulder to shoulder, battered and defiant. Lyra's staff, now cracked and bleeding sap, pushed back the darkness as roots and wind deflected a killing curse. Maelin tried to focus, but memories, or were they possible futures, kept slamming into her. Tress vanishing in smoke, Sarah falling under the guild's banner, Rootgrove burning. Despair threatened to drown her resolve. Then, in the spinning storm of time and pain, she caught a fleeting vision. Herself, long years from now, teaching children to weave under clear Wyrdenfell skies. The hope steadied her. Beside her, Lyra fell to one knee. "You must choose, Maelin. Cut away the twisted thread. Be warned. If you cut too deep, something precious may be lost forever." The loom vibrated as if alive, begging for a direction. To be cleansed, or to be controlled. However, Maelin's bandaged hand trembled over the blackest thread, the spot where the guild's spell was woven tightest. The guild leader, eyes crazed, summoned a massive curse and hurled it at her. Sarah leaped in front of Maelin, taking the brunt with a shout. The knight fell, smoking but alive. Finn caught Maelin's gaze, desperate and raw. "End this. Let's make our own fate." With a trembling breath, Maelin called on every lesson learned, her grandmother's gentle courage, Sarah's stubborn bravery, Finn's hope for redemption, Lyra's wisdom to give nature a voice. She reached deep into the loom and cut the corrupted thread, not with hatred, but with mercy and longing for the world's healing. A terrible silence fell. The blackness buckled and surged, the loom screamed. Light and darkness battled, the whole chamber shaking, tapestries whipping in a wind that wasn't air at all. And even as hope blossomed, Maelin sensed that the world's wounds ran deeper. This victory, if it came, would come at steep cost. But the real outcome, the very shape of fate, would not be known until Maelin faced the loom's final test. Light blasted through the hall as the loom thrashed with pain and promise. For the briefest moment, Maelin floated in a realm made of threads and memory, her world, whole and unraveling, gleaming before her eyes. She could see all paths at once. The happiness of a safe village, the loss she had sacrificed, her friends' struggles, the possible peace, the chance that all might come undone. Shadows clawed at her ankles, but were no longer able to drag her down. The guild leader, broken and desperate, hurled himself at Maelin, snarling in defeat. "You're not worthy. Fate was never meant for mortal hands." Sarah, staggering to her feet despite her wounds, blocked him with a battered shield, her voice ragged but true. "It's not just fate, it's hope she's fighting for." Finn, wide-eyed and trembling, laid a hand on Maelin's shoulder. "You're not alone. Not now." Lyra, old tears falling, whispered, "Root and river, spin it whole, Maelin. We'll hold the darkness back." Maelin summoned every ounce of what she was, the girl who learned at her grandmother's knee, the friend, the underdog from a forgotten village, the weaver no one saw coming. She took her pain, sacrifice, and dreams, and wove them into the loom, making not a perfect world, but a world where healing was possible, where love and loss both had a place. She spoke into the trembling silence. "This world is made stronger by our mending, not our mastery." Threads snapped and rejoined. The loom shivered and roared, then glowed with new gold and green, its dark heart mended by sacrifice. Shadows burned away in growing light. The guild leader was flung backward, powerless, screaming as the guild's grip crumbled to dust. The hall fell quiet. Roots broke through flagstones, flowers blooming where spells had blackened stone. Lyra knelt, exhausted, head bowed. Sarah limped to Maelin, squeezing her hand. Finn managed a crooked, hopeful grin. "Did we win?" Maelin smiled weakly, her heart vast and empty, but no longer afraid. "We made a world worth healing." As dawn crept over Wyrdenfell, the realm slowly settled into the new future Maelin had chosen. It would not be easy, healing never is, but under the brightening sky, humanity stood together, resilient, changed, capable of weaving hope into the world once more. In the ruins of the hall, with her friends at her side, Maelin set her first new thread, daring the world to unravel again. And far beyond, as the wind carried the scent of wild blossoms, a tired old woman smiled in her cottage, knowing fate at last was spun by the hands of those who had truly earned it.